What scares lawyers? What immutable law could scare or threaten a professional group of people that's used to scaring and threatening people with immutable laws? The law of finance, the world of money. Economic law seems to work on another plane from common law, like the law of the jungle differs from the laws of gravity, and maybe that's why there's hesitance around lawyers spending money. You spend enough to get here, you earn enough to get by, but how can you use the money you make to make more money? What does wild success or abject failure look like with finances? Are you afraid to find out? What if there was a way lawyers could overcome this fear? Learn how to adjust their mindsets around money and finances, see expenses and investments as pathways rather than prohibitions. See the potential in finance and not the pitfalls. That's what we're talking about today on Lawsome. Money, mindsets, and the $1 Million Attorney. Ready? Let's go.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only pumpkin spice podcast for law firms that brings that signature behavior of flavor that you savor. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am Jake the Ripper, named so for my uncontrollable problems with night flatulence. And joining me is the zombie in the social media graveyard, Paul Julius. Paul, are you updating your Friendster page over there?
I am. I'm trying to create a personal brand across Friendster, MySpace, and Yik Yak.
Oh my God, I didn't even... Came from the side, the dark horse. I'm still on Ella waiting for you to accept my request.
You gotta clear up that night flatulence problem first, and then we can be friends.
That's so weird. It's only at night, though. It's only at night.
It's not, I guess it could be worse.
Could be a Panera again. I got brown listed from that Panera. Let's clear the air. Tell people what's on the show.
On the show today, we talk about law firm success with an article from Forbes. And then we sit down with Wendy Witt, founder of the $1 Million Attorney, to find out how she helps law firms grow. And as always, we focus our guests' inner mind with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The article today is found on the garden of content called Forbes. Every time you go on Forbes, they're like, do you want us to send desktop notifications? No, I don't. Are you sure? Absolutely sure. About this? About what I'm doing right now? Anyway, the name of the article is He Said No to Law Firm Life and Built a 6-Figure Solo Practice Helping Others in Need. I'll read a little intro, give you some insights, and then we'll provide our hot takes. When Fabian Lima left behind his solo practice and joined a law firm in 2013, he thought he would enjoy the change. He soon realized he'd made a mistake. I had been ruined for firm life by my 7 years on my own, says Lima. Although his new employer was a small firm, he felt like he was part of a slightly oppressive bureaucracy, and he felt a gap in his day when he no longer handled practice management. He says he kind of missed having to go to the bank and deposit bills. So then he went back to his independent practice, and today he's doing 6-figure revenue in a solo firm and doing immigration and criminal law work. And so it says that solos are rising. We've heard on the show it's over 50% of the legal practicing population.
Greg Garman from Law Clerk.
One of those amazing statistics in this industry is that 50% of the practicing lawyers in the country are a solo practitioner, one man or woman in a shingle out front.
It's interesting to find these articles and to know that there's a lot of different approaches, because there was this lady who wrote this article has a book about $1 Million Attorney. And then there was another $1 Million thing on Solo Practice University. Wendy Witt, who we have, is the $1 Million Attorney. My hot take is it still seems like a Cinderella story for some weird reason, and it shouldn't. She provides a couple, Elaine in this article provides a couple steps on how you can start thinking, and it echoes what Wendy, the sentiments that she provides her clients. And so, Paul, what you said that your most interested part were some of those suggestions that Elaine gave in this article. What's your hot take on this?
Yeah, man. So that's the thing for me, is that I think this is becoming more normal, and it's weird because it's been like
solo
this.
stuff is more normal.
Well, I mean, successful solo, and I think that's the idea, that there's always been this like, and I think it's really been simmering, and I think it's about to boil, because I think there's so much stuff, and Mike Whalen, Bob Ambrogi, all these guys have written about being at these conferences and these tech shows, and they're geared towards these big law firms, huge solutions for blah blah blah.
Right.
But people are taking those ideas and they're scaling it with what they know how to do. I think one of the things that he says, and I've never seen anyone else say this before, was create a payment system that works. And it's unreal that people don't even think about that. Headnote, right? Sarah Schaff,
Yep.
she's definitely got something to say about that.
I think that there's this, what I call handshake business of law, that's always kind of existed. Like, we have never as an industry, up until really the last couple of years, maybe, like, assigned net terms to our invoices, like a really basic business practice in any other area or any other service industry. We just don't really do that.
Why I like this so much is it's because it's the kind of forward thinking where this is probably one of the biggest friction points you might actually have.
Is the numbers.
Getting the money from the person and into your bank account.
Finances. Yeah.
You will solve so many issues. End up with fewer sleepless nights.
But fewer sleepless nights, Paul. Thinking about wellness, thinking about the attorney, the practitioner, you use these numbers as guideposts to inform your emotional states.
Yes.
Whether you do that healthfully or unhealthfully is up to us. Wendy talks about mindset around money, economic freedom. There's sort of this cognitive flexibility that needs to be sort of increased and sort of stretched. And the only way it's possible is through the yardsticks and the rubber bands of measurements and numbers. And it once you start realizing there's a deeper quest to it, it takes sort of the snaky, selly, grabby aspect about it, and you can really start equating money with freedom. And then that's just going to help you run a better business. And it's a thin line in between here and Tony Robbins. It's a thin line in between here and, a snake charmer down south putting the fear or taking the fear out, or the ghost is involved somehow.
There's some kind of voodoo. But one thing I like about this too, and it really was like my second or third read through, is that just talking about this, just saying create a payment system that works, you are putting that mindset to work, because you're already thinking, it's not if I'm going to succeed, or maybe I can get this going. You're thinking about how I'm going to get paid. I will get paid when I do this, and here's how we're going to do it most efficiently, so I don't have to worry about that. So it makes a difference. And I think Wendy brings out a little bit more of that when she's talking about those specific things, business goals, sales figures, stuff like that. If you don't think about those things, I mean, I know we joke about dreaming and, follow your dreams, but these are the things you need to take it away from, staring out the window of your crappy job to actually making it work.
Yeah. And other things that Elaine mentions that Fabian did at his practice was making time for the clients, creating that payment system that works, and being patient, understanding that growth was sort of an investment, and an investment needs to be separated from an expense. And those mindsets, that mental framework, this strivingness mixed with, tangible statistics and metrics, that's the alchemical kind of blend that we're cooking up in the cauldron. Throw in some frog legs, eyes of newt, and some good marketing advice, solid business development insights from an attorney who's lived it, dreamed it, and is cooking up successful firms left and right. She's helped 8,000 lawyers kick it into high gear, and I think we should go to the interview.
Okay.
Fine then, let's go.
Let's go.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
We're getting updates on that developing story where a local law firm was buried in leads from the internet. We go now to our own Stacey Williams, who's live with the details.
Chaos. The scene here outside a prominent law firm where just hours ago, a digital marketing campaign from ConsultWebs went live, burying the entire building in clicks, calls, and leads. A few paralegals managed to get out, but some of the staff are still stuck inside trying to sign all of the cases coming in.
I mean, it seemed like right after the first call came in, we couldn't keep up. Qualified lead after lead came in. We were ranking higher than ever on Google by 10 in the morning. The likes on our Facebook page exploded by noon. My mom, my own mother, called the firm asking about a blog we wrote last week about handling insurance adjusters. And that's when the chats came in. The chats. Oh, the chats.
It wasn't until I tried to head out for lunch that I noticed the leads were starting to come into the windows on the second level. Our receptionist started to tie together extension cords to create a rope to lower herself to safety. But I guess that's when the banner ads went live, and I blacked out.
Oh, wow. So it appears that the leads are lightening up a bit. Here comes more of the staff making their way out from under the heavy curtain of leads. Sir, can you tell us what happened? Should lawyers hire ConsultWebs for their digital marketing agency?
Look, I'll just say this. We were not ready for the leads to come in so heavy and consistently. If you're marketing your law firm online, call ConsultWebs, but just be prepared for it to go better than expected.
Go to www.consultwebs.com to learn more.
And now, a lawsome interview.
Wendy Witt spent 15 years as a trusts and estates attorney before moving to the business side, becoming a master law firm business strategist, an attorney success consultant, and launching $1 Million Attorney, where she's helped over 8,000 lawyers step on the gas, accelerate their firm's financial growth, and achieve the success and freedom they crave. Wendy got her JD from the Dickinson School of Law. She's got a degree in psychology. She's an ABA published author. She's been quoted and noted everywhere. And now, after all that, her career takes a stunning turn with an appearance on the Lawson podcast. Wendy Witt, welcome aboard.
Hi, Jake and Paul. I think I need to hire you both as a publicist. That sounded awesome.
Thank you. Well,
We're in.
We're way in. We're way in if we can ride the coattails.
Nice.
Well, so let's talk about the origin story. Like, tell us how you went from estates and trusts and to this $1 Million Attorney.
You know, it's not as big of a transition as you might think. Basically, because of personal experience and those of my colleagues, I care really deeply about lawyer happiness and health. And I talk about money a lot because that gets people where they want to go and buys freedom and opportunity. But my professional mission really is to tilt the legal universe towards wellness. And I do that by helping solo and small firm attorneys build $1 million or multi-million dollar law firms that give them the life that they love. So that really started by my own experiences as a practicing attorney.
Mm. So you just weren't feeling the happiness, or was it the money thing, or where was it a combination of those things?
Part of it was I had been there, done that. I had worked on estates up to 500 million.
Mm.
I was there and I was enjoying it. I loved actually estate planning. It's a fabulous area of practice, and I was proud to be an attorney. But I started helping other attorneys with their practices. So I had helped the firms I worked with, and I had my own firms. And then I really started helping other attorneys, and that drew the attention of the CEO of Wealth Counsel. He led a large membership organization for estate planning attorneys. And I really had the opportunity there as part of their senior team. He recruited me to really have a huge impact. And I was able to help 4,500 attorneys there just in that one organization. So instead of me helping 100 clients a year, right? That I was able to help 100 times 4,500, whatever that math is.
Oh, it's because getting in front of a larger group of people. That's why TED Talks are what they are, because you can rant on YouTube or you can do another one of those walk and talk videos on LinkedIn or whatever. But it ain't like, speaking to an organization. So your system strikes us as different. You seem to be more focused on financials and KPIs. You said you see money as a way to get towards that wellness. Do you have specific measurable goals that you think are critical when a law firm is trying to grow and succeed? Do they need to think of happiness first and foremost, or do you?
Well, I love that you said that. So the answer is yes. When I'm working with attorneys or anything that I teach or write, life design comes first. So I help attorneys see, how do you want to spend the 168 hours that you get each week? And how does that compare to where you are now? How much money do you need to live the life that you want? I never tell anybody the life that they want. They get to pick that. But what does it really take? Most people don't go through that analysis to see, well, I'm spending my time this way, but I really want to be spending it this way. So what do I need to do to get there? Well, I'm living off this amount of money, but I really, I would be living my best life if I had this amount of money. What do I need to do to get there? So that's where the analysis always starts. But the numbers and the patterns they create. So numbers and the patterns they create, that's how lawyers make smart strategic decisions. Otherwise, they're just guessing. So they're dealing with whatever's on fire at the time. And that's just not a strategic way to build the life or law firm that they love.
I'm going to follow up on that for a second, but I need a little clarification to something you said earlier.
Okay.
500 million estate, was that cumulative or that was one person?
That was one person.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, I had been part of a lot of significant estate planning. And so I had done those things. And I was just really excited about the impact that I could have by really being put in a position of power. Because I was on the senior executive team for Wealth Counsel and developed their practice development program and products and team. So I really kind of switched my life to thinking about what I could do to have the most impact. And that's how I make a lot of my own personal decisions of what to do and not to.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of why I was asking that, because you've been around, personally working with people who have vast resources, obviously. You know what I mean? So, and you can see how that works and how does that help them, get where they want to go, and are they? So that's, it's interesting to just have that sort of exposure. I think a lot of people don't run into that kind of thing. But to move down the list here a little bit, getting back to the law firms, understanding investments versus expenses. Do you think most law firms define them correctly? And how do you feel about financing the growth of a law firm? And you mentioned this is a fear you've picked up on with your clients.
Right. Oh, this is really important, and so I'm glad you brought it up. Unfortunately, most lawyers think of investments as expenses, and that's just a bad habit. You really have to look at basically how we were raised and the money mindset of the people around us, especially our parents. How did they view the ability to create the life they want? So I remember looking back at my parents. And so way back when, I'm 53, so my parents, right, are, born in the like 38 and 40.
Mhm.
And when my mom would write out the checks, she would just get really, really grouchy. I mean, I remember as a kid, like, if I would ask her a question when she was writing out the checks monthly, like it was bad news, right? So she had that limited, stressful mindset around money. Or I remember my dad saying, wow, looking at an attorney in town who was successful and saying, oh, must be nice. And so their limited mindset, right, transferred to me. And you actually have to make a conscious effort to break out of that really limited mindset, knowing that you can create what you want. And because someone else has it, that's actually a good thing because it lets you know that it's possible, as opposed to like them having something doesn't take anything away from you. That was a bit of a bunny trail, but I think it was really valuable to consider. That mindset is really can get you from where you are to where you want to be, or it can stop you, and that you really need to examine that. Most attorneys look at a potential investment and say, oh, that costs too much,
Right.
which is really just a crock of baloney, because the ideal response is, will this investment opportunity move me closer to my breakthrough goal or not? Investments are expected to generate future cash flows. That's what your CPA would tell you. But I would also add in there, or time off, or improve your health or relationships, or create a good memory. An investment is something that's going to provide something of value, and you're spending money because you expect to gain something.
One thing I notice that people seem to confuse, and I'm just kind of throwing this out here. It just kind of popped up now, but personal debt versus business debt, I think is something that people mix up a lot. And I think this idea of investment versus expenses is kind of the pathway to define why one's okay and one's not, if you will.
Right. I learned within the legal community, of course, but I think why some of my perspectives and practices are different than those of my colleagues is because I look outside into the business world all the time. So when you made your comment about debt and good and bad debt and personal debt and business debt, I thought of Robert Kiyosaki. Did I say his name right? The Rich Dad Poor Dad author.
Yeah.
And he talks about how debt can be a really good thing, because if the debt pays for itself, it's really a form of investment.
So
And
hard. But
I think that we need to remember that. So when an attorney is considering the software, it's like some kind of software or some kind of professional guidance, or a new office space so that she can hire an associate or something like that, look at the returns that that's going to bring you: financial returns, quality of life returns, health return, whatever it is. Are you going to benefit from that? Is it going to give you something back in the future? If so, that's an investment.
oh man, and the return on an investment can be a feeling or a memory.
I absolutely. I mean, that's how Disney World sells, right?
It's such a great experiential kind of thing, and I think we bandy about these words, but I've never heard it. You invest in experiences, and those are memories, and those are positive associations, and do they come back to you? This is a little bit tangential but related. I got a salt crystal lamp, and everyone saw it in the house. They're like, "Oh, that's really good for you," and I was like, "Is it?" I don't know. What is the research? And then I looked inside the box, and there was a little piece of paper, and it said, there is no medical benefit to this salt lamp, but some would say there isn't a medical benefit to a sunset. Some would argue with that point. So who are we to, bring it up? And it really kind of hit me in an odd way, because if your investments could come back, and I think that's why maybe a lot of lawyers invest in branded stuff. Oh, my face is on it. My name is on it. There's a bit of a positive association. But when they're throwing money to a coach or throwing money at SEO or PPC, I don't know how that comes back for me. So it brings in line a couple different mindsets that lawyers maybe need to develop. And we've covered in this show the E-myth. I don't know if you've read Michael Gerber.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So there's that idea that there's a dreamer and then there's an entrepreneur inside of you. And then there's the admin person who has to do the work. And so like, the expert I guess the dreamer and the entrepreneur, and then there's the expert. So the expert is the lawyer. And so lawyers wanting to grow their firm, how do you help your clients divvy up that 160 hours towards the good law services that they can do and then managing? Do they need to become admin hawks? Do they need to become entrepreneurs, or can they just continue being lawyers? Do you have people kind of fighting that, those personalities, and how do you deal with it in $1 Million Attorney?
Right. The balance that comes up every day. So the balance lies solely in the goals of the lawyer. Some lawyers, and I'm saying just, but I don't mean it in a derogatory way, just want to practice law. That's okay, right? That's okay. They're probably best suited by working for someone else in an employee role and just grinding it out. There's a need for that. I always ask that question, so where are you when I'm talking to a lawyer? Where are you in wanting to continue to practice, maybe cherry pick a few cases, or really serve as the true CEO of the law firm, providing the vision and guidance? Most of the lawyers who get to me, they're leaning towards the CEO side, right? The business side, because that's who I attract. And those are the lawyers who develop the multi-million-dollar law firms because they're really focusing on law as a business. And after all, a law firm is a business that provides legal services.
If you do have those people who are business minded, what does accountability look like? Because that's another word that's just thrown about. We've had numerous conversations. We've had numerous guests on the show. We live this frustration sometimes with our marketing endeavors. How does accountability play into it? Because everybody dreams big and then they go back and they live small lives. How do you keep the vision up? It seems like it's so cool. It's like a beach ball. It's like a dream. An investment is a dream. An investment is a feeling. I was like, oh gosh, this is great. How do you keep that euphoric feeling going?
There are practices that I recommend, such as visualization and affirmations. My first response usually to this will get an accountability partner, and when lawyers work with me, it's a natural part of that relationship, blah, blah, blah. But there is more to it. And in addition to having an accountability partner or having a consultant that you're going to meet with a few times a month, so you're going to get it done because you'd be embarrassed not to, it is mindset, and mindset cycles for us as human beings. Just like there's a physical cycle, there's a psychological cycle, and that all plays into mindset. It is necessary to continue to see the vision, to be able to keep going. So that's one of the reasons why at the beginning of my relationship with attorneys is I help them get really specific on where they're going so they have a clear vision. It's not enough to say, Wendy, I want to make $1 million. Like, I have to know, you have to know why you want to make $1 million. What is your life going to be like when you get there? What will it actually look like? So part of affirmations and visualization is actually seeing a goal already as achieved. So writing it down, having cards, having a vision board, having a mastermind group that brings you back to it. All those things are necessary to make that vision come true. And there have been books written about this since, the early 1900s. I mean, that's what Think and Grow Rich is about, and those classics is really that it's the mindset and how you think in addition to your actions and the people that you spend time with that's going to get you there. You can't get there without the mindset.
I have a question though about some of these different things you mentioned, like mastermind groups or business coaches and stuff like that.
Mhm.
One thing that I like about what you do with the $1 Million Attorney is you're very specific. And I'm just kind of curious about your thoughts. We have been talking about mindset and happiness and experiences and stuff, but it seems like sometimes those mastermind groups or some of these coaches and I don't want to say rah rah people, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of substance to it. You really place an emphasis on tangible things, and I'm just curious, how did you end up with that? Did you have any like bad experiences? Do you find people are surprised when you're talking about we're going to hit this sales goal? We're going to talk sales projections. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, and
you don't do a lot of fluff.
also, but just to add on, there's visualizations and intention boards and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then there's hard numbers. And I
Yep.
think that dichotomy alone is enough to like throw people's head into because usually it's either just chamomile tea and art cards or it's just like a boot camp where they just flog you with Excel spreadsheets. It's a really interesting point that Paul's bringing up because a lot of coaches seem to maybe need coaches themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's so many people who are like, you just got to think like a lion or climb that mountain or whatever. But you, Wendy, seem to be like, no, you have to make a plan and a strategy. You have to visualize and you have to think about when you get there. And then more importantly, you have to think about what's going to happen after you're there. So it's almost like, start walking it and talking it before you're actually there. That is very unique to what you do. And I'm just kind of curious if you have any thoughts on some of those other systems or styles, I guess.
I'm listening to you, and it's interesting because I don't feel that it's unique, and I'm actually sorry to hear that it's unique because the aspects of both or the holistic view are absolutely necessary. You can't make good decisions without the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just use the numbers because you're a human being. It really is a combination, and I am about the wellness of the attorney. And one of the reasons I think that I use $1 Million Attorney, not only does it get attention as a brand name, but when you're around that $1 million mark as an attorney, it something breaks open. It's really the tilting point, and that's where you can buy more freedom and you're doing the work that you love. There always is. I have had attorneys hit the $1 million mark, like you say, and they're still working too much and they're overweight and they're not spending the time with their family, or if they are, there's conflict. That's not a win to me. It's, the 5 months later when I'm getting the text saying, Wendy, I'm doing yoga, I lost 20 pounds, I'm doing this, this, and this. That's when I feel like, ba-boom, we made it happen. Humans need both.
Well, and yeah, but without those measurements, it's hard to tell if you've made progress. This is brilliant. Just kind of taking it all in. If you were passing by a lawyer, at a busy coffee shop, and, you guys only had just a small amount of time, like 30 seconds, what would be your one piece of advice for her, to start changing this trajectory, no matter where they are, new, solo, small, indebted, indentured servants in big law, whatever's going on there. What's your little kind of a coffee shop, hot take?
Well, I would say two. First, know your numbers. You need to know your numbers. And I have, free articles under my LinkedIn profile where you can check out a lot of the numbers you're supposed to track, the formulas you need to know. So you got to know your numbers so you can make smart decisions. Otherwise, you're making decisions based on your gut or what's on fire, and you'll fail. The second is to focus on personal development, because personal development always precedes sustained professional success.
And enjoy your vanilla latte.
That's pumpkin spice now.
Perfect. So people want to learn more about you, Wendy Witt. They want to learn about the $1 Million Attorney way. Where can they find you online?
So I invite your listeners to check out $1millionattorney.com and to see where they may fit in, learn more about me, or how to grow their businesses. And then also please connect with me on LinkedIn. I look forward to it.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Roses. It was shoot.
We're not going to follow up, but we might.
These were tough.
It was World War I historical fiction. Yeah.
Got it.
Beautiful. Number 2. What is your favorite place?
The Happen House, where I live now, and lawyers come to make it happen.
All right. Number 3. What sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
David Nagel. He's a mindset business coach.
Number 4. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Oh, mayonnaise.
Yes. Don't. No, that's fine. Embrace that. Embrace that.
These are my people. I'm going to start a group. Number 5. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
HGTV.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.